Well, hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining this year's Wisdom Keeper Summit. We're so excited to be with you all today. We're going to start with a short opening practice to formally start. So if you'd like to gently close your eyes, and no rush at all, or you can leave your eyes open, whatever you'd like. And we're going to start to slowly send our awareness to our breath. Maybe deepening the breath, breathing into any spaces in the body that are requiring your attention. You can start to make any gentle movements that you need to help your body feel a little bit safer, a little bit more grounded. And as we find grounding in our own way to begin, just allow yourself to follow the sounds that will be played from my voice and my Shruti box. Deepening the breath, and we'll start to send our awareness to our belly, checking in, our heart, and our head. We'll formally open by creating a healing vortex or container for today. And we do this in order to open up to any healing and guidance that's available to us in this space. We also do this because all the work that we do in this life benefits all those around us across time and space, because we're all quantumly connected. So we'll begin by inviting the benevolent spirit traditions that have guided us here in this life, the land, the water, the air, the fire that has nourished and taught us, the animal spirits, the plant spirits, our higher selves, our spiritual team and spiritual entourage, our ancestral line, the celestial and the rooted, the lunar and the solar, the temples and the temple keepers, the land and the land stewards. We call upon the dimensions and the threads, the macrocosms and the micro. We thank you, we thank you, we thank you, we thank you, sacred mystery, for bringing us together, for weaving us together in this way, for helping us remember who we are. We thank you, Mother Earth, for holding us. We thank those we may have hurt and the lessons we learned. May we find more ways to forgive ourselves and others and accept the things we cannot control. We say this because it's true. We say this for those who haven't been able to before. We are and will always be victorious. I'll pause here in case there are any benevolent intentions, guides, symbols, etc. that you would like to weave into our vortex today. You can mentally or out loud say their names and call them in.
I'd like to call into this meeting all of the angels, guides, and ascended masters working with us. I'd like to call upon the council of the councils, that all of us are now synergizing in this unified field. And I'd like to call upon our strength of our future selves to send us energy, remembering who we are, bringing us into this present moment.
Thank you. We'll make the intention here that at the end of our ceremony today, that anyone or anything that we invited into our vortex must disengage and go back to wherever their home is, wherever the divine has placed them. May we meet again if it's highest and best. And so it is. Gently coming back to the space before meeting the eyes of your computer or phone. Just take a moment to look around the space, to tune into your surroundings, to find safety and grounding on the land that you're on, until coming back to meet the eyes of another. So thanks everyone. Today we're gonna flow through a short intro, and then we'll go into our roundtable, and we'll end with audience questions. So if there are any questions that come up, or if you'd like to dive deeper into anything, just let us know towards the end. But here we'll begin with what Wisdom Keepers is and why we're here. For me, Wisdom Keepers is a collection of tales from the medicine people within our communities, and maybe how their lives have changed and been affected by the medicine that they carry within them. Many of us are maybe born with our medicine online or our magic offline. So from my interpretation, what happens many times is that we go through a series of initiations or awakenings in order to embody our divine mission and purpose this process of surrendering old parts of ourselves or clearing things that are keeping us from embodying a truer or higher version of ourselves is what we like to call the hero's journey. This is a journey we must go on in order to be the leaders and the stewards of this new template or paradigm that wants to come to the planet, which I see as like a new way of living and organizing the systems like around us in a way that I feel like prioritizes the liberation of all beings, meaning being able to live sovereignly in relationship with the earth and the things that like really nourish us, like the plants, the animals, the land, our community. And I feel like this is what the world is like waking up to. So I'm glad that we're here having this conversation as we see many old structures and systems crumbling that are prioritizing really only those in privilege and power. So through today's talk, we are able to travel back to the past and share what we learned in order to find a clear way forward together and really show each other that our stories matter. So, my intention for today is that I hope that this is a catalyst for our journeys, and may this conversation bless us in all the ways and all those who are connected to us, and may it help us continue to build the world that we want to participate in. So, for the past 7 weeks, we've been putting together this super special roundtable together. We've been prepared energetically. Our spiritual teams have been dropping the wisdom codes that are highest and best to share. And we're really just so excited to get started. So, today we are blessed to have Boom, Omair, and Jordyn with us today. So I'd love to share a little bit about them to get started, and they can chime in and help me fill in any gaps. So I'll start with Boom. Luwin, also known as Boom, is a queer Filipinx multidisciplinary artist, designer, land steward, and guide who offers ceremonial hand poke tattoos that weave the prayers, intentions, and energies that are in the space that want to be there into these beautiful bespoke pieces unique to this person's unique soul journey. For me, Boom is a multimedia artist that loves to get his hands dirty in some dirt or maybe some oil pastels. They are currently on a quest to bridge their ancestral magic with digital technologies in hopes of guiding you back to yourself. My favorite thing about Boom is their very Aquarian way of interpreting the world around them. Boom sees the things we're missing. They are also an amazing cook that spoils me every night for dinner. There's so much I could share about the 9 years that we've spent together, but overall, I'm just so blessed to call them my partner. Boom, anything you'd like to share?
Thank you for that beautiful intro. I feel like you touched upon everything beautifully. Um, I think I'd like to just share that my birth name is Luwin Antonio Vivas Changco, and I go by Boom, a nickname that has followed me my whole life. Boom or Boomer, and it's interesting where I feel like people would perceive me as someone more quiet and gentle, whereas my nickname is Boom. It's like a force, a power. And I feel like prefacing with my birth name honors my ancestry, all those who paved the way for me to be here in this moment. So thank you for creating this space. Thank you for everyone joining us. And I'm excited to co-create this experience with y'all.
Beautiful. Thanks so much, Boom. Now I'm gonna move to Omair. Moriamo Omair Om, also known as Dr. Nicolette Natrin, is a musical artist, doctor of acupuncture and Chinese medicine, and herbalist who anchors the cosmic energies on Earth through the vibrational healing of sonic curation and esoteric acupuncture. Mic drop. Her mission is to be a role model for those who want to work with the human body to remember their purpose and awaken to their multidimensionality. My favorite thing about Omair is her smile, her energy, and how she communicates things that are very otherworldly but in plain English. She makes the cosmic and alien side of me feel very seen, and I'm so grateful we randomly ran into each other at the farmer's market that day that we met. Omair, anything you'd like to add there?
I just want to express my gratitude for you, Horus, for holding this container for us to be here. And yeah, I'm just here to stand for the light and stand for the balance so that we can channel whatever wants to be said today. So I'm very excited to be here. Thank you.
Beautiful, thank you. Gonna move to Jordyn. Jordyn is a badass. What can I say? A permaculturist, artist, ritual hand poke tattooer, and conduit that helps others remember their interconnectedness to all life. You can usually find her rooted in the space between earth and sky, or maybe sitting outside listening to the wind. She is a steward of the ancient ways that works with the tools of natural building, regenerative agriculture, and the elemental forces of nature in order to heal the land and others through her ancestry and her buff arms. For over a decade, her intuitive nature has shaped her craft as a ritual hand poke tattooer, where the slow and intentional process of pushing ink into skin becomes a practice of self-discovery and transformation. My favorite thing about Jordyn is her soft energy, her orange tree, and her openness to become close friends a few weeks before me and Boom moved out of San Diego. Jordyn, anything you'd like to add there?
Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. Super grateful to be here, and I'm sure as we all feel this, always willing to expand and grow into new forms of ourselves. So excited to see what conjures forth from here.
May the fourths be with us. Beautiful. So today we'll be talking about bridge workers. For me, a bridge worker is someone who's able to travel to the other side or the unseen to receive or connect to something and bring it back to our physical world. I see bridge workers like UPS drivers that are here to deliver something to us that maybe we don't necessarily have access to in the way that they do. Bridge workers are here to facilitate healing and transformation, connect the ancient ways to the modern ways, create art through a spiritual lens, and I feel like overall like connect people and perspectives that may feel impossible or strange to some. Bridge workers are stewards of change, but many times they must go through big changes first before delivering them to others. So thank you all for being bridge workers. I feel like we're all bridge workers in our own ways. But we're going to get started with our roundtable. And I'd love to start with asking Boom the first question, which is, can you tell us a little bit about your journey and how you came into being a bridge worker? Really anything that comes to mind that feels relevant to share.
Yes, thank you. it's interesting where I was thinking, I feel prior to this circle, I wouldn't have thought of what I do or who I am as a bridge worker. But the more I reflected upon what is a bridge and what is a bridge worker, where a bridge is a literal, like physical object connecting two spaces, a time and a place, or one town to another. And I feel like the more I reflect upon that and how it mirrors my life, it comes back to the journey of self-discovery and coming back to or wondering and rediscovering who I am. And I feel like a clear moment in time that sparked this was the potential like loss of my mother, where she was undergoing a mastectomy and it was triggering a lot of fears within me. As in, like an adult, I was 25 at this time, and I feel like it was raising so many fears about life, existentialism. It was like a mirror before me where it was like my only parent left in this plane, like potentially being gone. And so it was making me look at myself and look at my actions and who I wanted to be in this world and what I stood for. And I felt like the bridge between the physical and the spiritual was starting to come alive, where I was starting to see things beyond my like egocentric worldview, where I felt like throughout my life it was very self-centered and very me-focused. And in this moment, it was pulling myself outside of myself, and I was starting to see things on a different macro level. And so this journey of like self-discovery made me question everything, question what am I doing? Who do I stand for, and what do I stand for? And so I started to I found yoga, and I feel like the yogic practice helped me connect to my body and bridge the spiritual and the physical, and helped me move through depressive states and heaviness within my body that I was never consciously aware of. And then this translated into self-expression and how I share my story and who and what I wanted to do in life. And I feel like I was at this point operating through how other people would want me to live life. And I feel like it was starting to connect to like my higher self and bridging this present self with like my higher self, and like connecting to what is it that you want me to do? What is it with all the tools, all the talents, all the gifts that I feel like I was given with? How do you want me to flow and operate in this world? And I feel like the more I opened my heart and this channel, opportunities began to appear, whether that be through ceremonial hand poke tattoos, whether that be moving cross country with my partner to bridge the city life that we were like accustomed to with the rural life, and understanding the connection to our bodies with the land and the animals, and seeing the spiritual connection of food, and bridging all these worlds that I felt like were mutually exclusive, and realizing the interconnected thread that bridges us all together. And so the more intentional I became with my actions and how I wanted to show up within my relationships, especially with myself, more opportunities to be a bridge worker just began to present themselves before me. And it just began to flow within what I create, within the spaces I hold. And so this offering of ceremonial hand poke tattoos was created, where I'm bridging the unseen parts of us that maybe hide or feel like we don't have access to. I feel like I'm able to tune into it with someone by being an offering presence. And through this co creation, we're able to create a beautiful piece unique to them and their soul. And so this also translates with reconnecting to my ancestry and wanting to bridge the digital with the physical and ancestral technologies, where in my prior life, I was working as a digital product designer, designing apps and websites and tech. And before moving back here, back to the East Coast, my hometown, I was questioning, do I let this go? Do I let this journey go? And I felt like I was hearing spirit say, no, like you have this connection to technology, to the digital world, and you need to bridge this with the stories you want to tell. So I feel like through art, through storytelling, I feel like I'm able to bridge worlds that I feel like my physical self couldn't express through words, and it's expressed through medium, through ink, through the digital landscape, through storytelling, through sharing and opening up my heart in ways that I feel like I never knew how. And so I feel like it's an ongoing process of self-discovery and understanding what it means to be a bridge, and just opening up that channel and allowing anything that wants to come through to come through. So all this to share, I feel like I'm still figuring it out.
I love that. I love this journey that you went on of death and coming back to your body, being a portal to spiritual awakening and rediscovering who you are. And through that discovery, it's like you are discovering more parts of yourself. And then through discovering parts of yourself, you're discovering the interconnected threads that bridge us all together: the plants, the animals, the elements, all of the things, the medicines. So I love that so much. Thank you for sharing, Boo. I'm gonna pass the mic to Omair. Is there anything that you'd like to share with us regarding your journey and how you came into being a bridge worker?
So I'll share that I feel being a bridge worker for me means being a guide and a role model. And the role modeling that we are doing together as creators and co-creators is the ability to demonstrate not only to ourselves to be the hero's journey, as I know we love this metaphor from us to go into the death and life and rebirth cycle ourselves, and then be able to hold the hands of others who are going through that stage at different levels, and in some ways bridging the transitions through ceremony, through intention, through discovery, self-discovery, and creativity, so that we can narrate and author this story this game that we came to play, and us with the main character. And then in introducing that concept to others, like, you are here to create and weave this aesthetic or this theme, whatever you choose. It's like, choose your own adventure. And I realized through my own process of refinement in my own, like, I am my magnum opus and I am my great work. And then I can show others how to curate their own art through the carving out of themselves and who they decide to be, and what choices that they decide to make in order to create that great art piece of themselves. So in essence, the bridge worker formation for me, the role, and I'm so glad I didn't use this word before this particular summit, so I'm like using it all the time now. But I see this transition from the physical to the metaphysical. I see the transition from the imagination to reality. And the thematic I've been going through lately is helping to have an abundance of the imagination that, and I got this from my partner who spoke to me and said, the reason you're not able to create the reality that you want is because you have a poverty of the imagination. And the poverty of the imagination that I think artists are here to remedy is that by being visionaries, by being able to imagine something beyond what we are experiencing, that we can anchor and bridge that transition so that we can really help people to see what we see. And with whether that be seeing the greatness in yourself or the greatness in others or the world we want to live in, we're really here to bridge the heaven and earth. And we are that pivot because we are the magicians. We are the ones creating that ceremony through our artwork to be that swinging door that transitions us from one stage to the next.
Beautiful. We're already getting into the juiciness. Thank you for delivering us there. I love what you share around like helping people through the transitions of the hero's journey. I never really, I guess, formulated it in that way through speech. And we're able to help people through that alchemical process because we've done it ourselves. And it's through our visions and our dreams that we're able to help people realize that they are creators and help them see the world that we want to create or see the world that they want to create. So really this is like a remembrance or empowerment kind of journey that we're here to help other people with them kind of remembering that they are creators, that they are artists, whether they see themselves as artsy or creative or can paint or can do this, but we're all creators in essence. So thank you for that. All right, I'm gonna go to Jordyn. Anything you'd like to share about your journey, Jordyn, on how you became a bridge worker? Yeah, anything you'd like to share that comes up for you?
Yeah, I love these conversations with all of you because I feel like more and more of myself are illuminated within the reflections of what you all share. So thank you. And I'm super grateful to be on this journey with all of you. Yeah, it was funny when you brought this question up earlier, Horus. My mind immediately went to when I was in high school and middle school and like the remembrance of the many times that I was sort of the mediator or the middleman for like many different scenarios. And you know, that like tangible moment in time where you're kind of in conversation with two different worlds, and me being in the center point of like kind of navigating how to supply or even just like hear both sides and come to an agreement within myself, and also in a way that is neutral for both sides to be able to receive what they want. You know, it's like, or what hopefully they need. So it was funny when it's like, oh, what was your journey? That was just like a silly remembrance of maybe where it all kind of started. But yeah, I feel within the journey of coming from that into more of the educational deep dive that I've been on for the past 9 years, learning all about herbalism, permaculture, myself, obviously, natural building. I'm deep diving into biogeometry, which is coming up soon. I'm in a mystery school. I did earthships. I've been all across the board in just like random physics lessons that I found online, like knowing that the more that I have been exposed to different perspectives and different offerings that people have specialized in their life, I feel what I've come to is a specific embodiment that kind of takes a little bit of everything that I've learned and woven it together into this persona that I am becoming. And to me, that is like the ultimate form of bridge working that I have seen myself do in this moment, because I feel like it changes all the time. But really, it's being able to have this higher perspective for myself and knowing where we are in the world and all of the influences and all of the information, and being able to really hold center and embody the parts that I want to see and want to create in the world and see more of. Yeah, so I feel like I'm on a specific point in my journey where things are becoming more and more clear and aligned into where I'm headed. And, you know, turning 28 last week, it feels like it's about time. And it feels very exciting. So I feel like I'm really just on a threshold of new beginnings in this life. And I really see that in reflecting in the world around me as well.
I love it. Thank you. Yeah, I love what you bring in around neutrality. That's something that we haven't spoken about yet, but the importance of neutrality when dealing with various energies around us, even the tools of our teachers and our lineages, and how certain things are being taught. And it's like, okay, you have to do it this specific way, but then you have your own methodology and own belief system that you're trying to be this kind of middleman mediator of. So I'd like to ask you, Jordyn, just a follow-up question of like, maybe if you can talk a little bit about how you find neutrality within all of the various tools that you do use, and also now that you are continuing your learning process, going into biogeometry, you just graduated from an amazing, I think 6 or 9 month mystery school that had a super, super deep study. How do you balance all of that within yourself?
Really, really great question. Still learning, still learning. I think honestly, what I have come to and what I'm still sort of navigating within myself is experience is the teller of all truths within one's body. And so I'll try things out once at least, and see for me like if it feels right in my body, and also reflecting back on sort of this like inner knowing of the morals and truth that I feel like I have held and hold throughout my life. Like that's the one thread that I feel like I can remember as a child, is just this inner knowing of truth and morality that I have felt. Even though my actions may not have fully reflected that, it's still there. And I feel like as long as like I'm feeling like I'm like a snake slithering between multiple worlds, different modalities and whatnot, I know that there's a gravitational pull back towards this center point. And though I may teeter to specific edges of practices, for example, if there's something in the mystery school that I was like, whoa, this is really far out, and I've never even thought about doing something so intensely different than what I'm used to. I'll edge there and I'll try it out for a little bit, but sometimes, or a lot of the times, what will happen is if I surrender into that experience more, I'll kind of find my own version of meaning that resonates with my truth and what I'm moving through, or how it resonates with the way that I'm able to understand what's going on, either energetically or physically. And I think that when we come from a place of openness in that way, the neutrality is kind of a beautiful byproduct, because then we can see that there is no right or wrong. It's more different. And there is validity in everything that we see. And I think it kind of touches on what Omair said about imagination, and how in our society we kind of are lacking in this realm of imagination. And when we really expand on our imaginative scape of what is possible in our minds and in this physical reality, I feel like it just opens the door to many different sides of the same diamond. And I feel like that's how, in a long story short, that's how I keep neutral.
Amazing. Yeah, you hit on so many points. The first one I'll touch on is like something that Britt from Wisdom Keepers as well, for Tales of Social Change, which is on Saturday. Something that she shared was a book that I totally forgot, but the essence of the book is like the whole world was created from someone's imagination. And unfortunately, a lot of that imagination that we see in the world are imagination by Ruha Benjamin. Thank you so much for it. Yeah, it's like the people that are of privilege and that are of power. We see a lot of their imagination out in the world, but I think a lot of the bridge workers and the spiritual people on the planet, like there's a world that we're creating too. And we're just maybe not necessarily seeing it with our physical eyes yet, but we definitely feel it. And we are definitely brought together in this way, brought together through the mystery. And we don't really have tangible proof of things, but we feel it. And I think that's what matters. And I love what you share around like the importance of surrender as well. And through surrendering into a new process, and going into learning something new, we're actually doing that to hone our discernment and to like gain experience points and to learn like this is what I like, this is what I don't like. And through honing our own belief system, we're also in a way honing our imagination and seeing like, oh, this is the world I want to live in, this is the world I don't want to live in. So thank you for that. I'm gonna go to Boom. Now that you have embraced your bridge worker-ness, and I feel like we're in a good space to, I feel like we have like the foundation, we have the little puzzle pieces of all the bridge working codes. But now that you have gone through your spiritual awakening and your training as becoming a bridge worker in whatever capacity that means for you, what does your day-to-day look like, and maybe how do you stay in flow as an artist? How do you stay in neutrality?
I feel like that question has so many layers, and my mind's like, where do I want to go? But I feel like it starts from feeling grounded within my body. I feel like meditation has been a huge practice of mine in cultivating my sense of self and grounding my body, my mind, and helping myself reduce the noise that takes up space. And I feel like I sat in a intuition or psychic school a few years ago within like the beginnings of the pandemic. And this practice was transformative for me, where it helped me use my mind's eye to help ground my body and understand what's within my energy and what isn't. I feel like oftentimes we are navigating through life without even realizing that maybe our guards are down low, that someone, our neighbor fighting next door is like affecting our energy and making us feel anxious. And whether that be that example, but so many different ways around how our energy can fluctuate by the people around us. And so grounding within my day, within my meditation practice has like really sets the foundation for me to feel safe within my body and therefore allows me to create. And I feel like creating is one of my life's goal and life's purpose. And I'll share this story where I feel like I'm currently working as a tattoo artist, a ceremonial hand-poked artist in a studio. And it's my first time working in a studio, and being the only hand-poke artist, I feel different already. And then adding the layer of adding ceremony, even more different. So it's like trying to navigate my own lane within this realm. And I feel like, oh, that's my train of thought.
Were you kind of sharing about how the tattoo artist next to you like can finish a piece so quickly, and the way that like it takes sometimes a lot longer for a piece to be finished?
Right. And so thank you. And so like the intentionality of like just the slow process of hand poking. And I feel like coming back to working within a studio is like acting as a mirror, where it's like these artists are moving so quickly and like just in their flow. Like I'm doing this small 1-inch piece, and by the time I finish, someone has a huge portrait on someone's arm. And I feel like within our earlier conversations, Omair had shared this quote of competition or comparison is the thief of joy. And I feel like working within the studio has been such a blessing and opportunity, but also a mirror to see like where am I comparing myself as a creator, as an artist. And so I feel like I've been just coming back to myself. And I sat in meditation and I was questioning, connecting to my higher self and my guides and asking, like, am I supposed to be doing this work? Um, I was questioning, like, am I an artist when my books aren't filled? Am I an artist when society tells me what an artist looks like? And so I'm sitting in meditation, asking myself this question. And as I'm asking myself, I'm feeling so much shakes and hesitation, even just to ask this question. I'm like, do I even want to know the answer to this? And so, like, once I can settle in and allow my body to rest through my practice of meditation, I feel like I get this message of like, you are a creator, you are an artist, regardless of the medium. So whether you pick tattooing and ink as your medium, you will create regardless. And so, like, with that message dropped down from my guides and from my higher self, it's like, how can I exercise creativity in every aspect of my life? And thinking of it as like my life's purpose through the way I cook and the alchemy of the ingredients that I choose to co-create this beautiful dish, to doing creative exercises of like um, challenging myself to create something every day, whether it be a drawing of my dog or like a flash design for a tattoo, and just like practicing this muscle, knowing that like this is energy that my spirit is asking me to like exercise and play with. And the more I lean into it, I feel like the more I'm surprised by like what is channeled through me and what this bridge is creating. So long-winded answer, but thank you.
Gorgeous. You brought us into our next question around imposter syndrome as an artist. A lot of times, as a bridge worker, you are guiding an initiatory process of going through ceremony and then hand poking this beautiful, what's the word I'm looking for? Like symbol, I guess, into somebody's body, and that symbol acts as kind of like a living being. That, in a way, if you know anything about like Reiki or Reiki symbols, or just symbols in general, they are kind of living beings and they have their own consciousnesses. So you're in a way like pulling in this consciousness from the ethers, bringing it into your body, putting it into someone else's body in a way, having that live on them. I'm curious for you, Boom, like, what is that experience like, guiding or delivering initiation? And while you're in the process, like, is there anything else you'd like to share about imposter syndrome or just being a tattoo artist? Because it's permanent, and if you make a mistake, it's like, oh, this is someone's body and this is a sacred thing. So I'm curious if anything comes up for you there.
Yes. I feel like the first thing that comes to mind as you pose this question was something we had spoken about as a group as we prepared for this roundtable. And Omair brought up this concept of like 1 + 1 is 3, where when we sit in ceremony, when we sit in intentional spaces that we create through presence, it's like I'm one, the person I'm sitting is one, but then that equals two, but then we're also creating this third entity, this third space of this co-creative, collaborative energy that like we're meshing in like our higher selves, our intentions, our prayers, and it's that itself is creating its own third entity. And so as I first entered this role as like a ceremonial hand-poked artist, I felt like so much pressures to have to create a certain way or for things to look a certain way. But I feel like the more I leaned into this third space, seeing things beyond the ego, seeing things beyond me, beyond the person I'm sitting with, but the energies we're choosing to co-create together, it feels like something so beyond me that it's not about me. Like all of my medicine, my practice, like I feel like this journey has been teaching me it's not about you. It's about like what the spaces you create, what you can offer, what you can channel. And so one thing that I've been doing when I go into ceremony, whether it be tattooing or non-tattooing, whether it be moments like this where I get to share and channel, or like tarot readings, I tune into my higher self, tune into my guides, and just channel. And I come from a Catholic background, and oftentimes in church they would say, make me an instrument of your peace. And they would like pray that. And even though I'm not a practicing Catholic, I feel like all of these religions to the root are like spiritual. And so it's like, how can I call in spirit, the universe, and be a channel and have you work through my hands, through the words I speak? And I feel like once I can tune into something beyond me, it makes me realize none of this is about me. And it allows me to move past like the comparison, to move past the ego, and to move past the small voice that is the imposter syndrome.
Thanks, Mom. I love how you just formulated all of that. I'd love to hear from Omair if there's anything there that you'd like to bounce off of Boom's share, or if you'd like to share any personal experiences about how you navigate imposter syndrome, or find self-worth through your art and what you do.
You. This is such an important and present moment motif that I'm going through in my life. And as I was discussing the authorship of our journey, I appreciate Boom saying, bringing to back to the fold, the comparison is the thief of joy, and the third energy that's created from the energies that we bring. Getting out of the beliefs that are not helpful to us is one of the main things that I feel is a major challenge with standing outside of the mass consciousness of society, because the visionaries or the artists, their role as archetypically is to, in some ways, stand apart and to show the bigger picture. And it can be very isolating. And I think what's helped me to get out of that, and I'm still really suffering through seeing my colleagues really economically successful, and myself still navigating those thematics of worthiness and feeling like I may not ever feel ready to be a teacher. But I noticed that when I was reflecting on what I wanted to speak about in this particular talk, one of the answers that I gave was teaching is learning. So if you ever tried to teach someone anything, especially as a guide, someone who is ushering in someone ceremonially to, they say we only really apply like a small percentage of what we teach, but in the teaching of it, we remember we're speaking to ourselves a lot of times, like when we feel that we're that channel, that we're bringing forth this message for someone, or a guidance, it ends up being a lot of times for both of us. So I see the artist's journey as the weaving of meaning together. And usually in that 1 + 1 = 3 energy, we find that we see ourselves mirrored in the person who's in front of us and the situation that we're looking at. So again, with the authoring and the reframing of how do we create this? If I was a storybook character in my own journey, how would I switch this around to be like, I'm the tattoo artist who, with every small movement, like was actually moving universes, and I was, like the subtle knife in the golden compass, like cutting through the fabric of time and space with that strength of my intention to write upon the fabric of this interwoven meaning. And it's like putting a timestamp on it, or something very artistic to recalibrate myself that I'm creating that meaning. So if I'm creating a meaning of me being an imposter, I'm giving energy to the energy that I'm intending for. So we have to be so vigilant in how we curate our focus for our clients, for ourselves, because if we don't keep focus on our vision, then we get distracted. And a lot of times that distraction is the self-sabotage of forgetting who we are, the sovereignty of our agency, of knowing that we are, each one of us, in the image of God, creating this reality. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. The channel is open. I love what you share. The visionaries are here to show the bigger picture, and they really are. And sometimes that bigger picture feels triggering or feels unclear to other people. And through that visionary work, we're here to teach others what we're seeing, to bring them into the room and be like, this is what I'm talking about. And I see that a lot with being Boom's partner, of him being an Aquarius and a projector, which is all about like future thinking and new paradigms. And he always brings me into the room and is like, hey, you forgot this over here. And I'm like, oh, damn. It's awesome. It's so much better because you looked at it and you ran that energy through yourself, and then you gave me feedback on it. So it helps me also make sure that what I'm creating is evergreen and that it's for the future as well, and not just for right now. And I love this idea of like also teaching others helps us feel and be a little bit more clear with what we're doing. The more that we run this specific energy through our system, or the specific message or initiation or tool, the clearer that it gets. It's like practice makes perfect, kind of. But also, I love what you share around like our attention flows to, our energy flows to where our attention goes, in a sense. It's like where we are sending our awareness is what creates what grows in the world. If you want to continue to see yourself as XYZ, that is what will be created, because that is where your attention and your energy is going to. So thank you for that, Omair. I'd love to change the topic a little bit as we flow back to Jordyn and start to ask around ancestry and art, ancestry and your own relationship with it, and maybe how you may have reclaimed a part of your ancestry through your art, or not.
I feel like this is definitely one of the hardest questions that I have been asking myself over and over again since I even had the first initial thought of like, where do these feelings and this art come from? I grew up not really connected to my ancestry at all. In the way of like having traditions, you know, and learning about like who my family was, my great grandmothers, my grandmothers, and grandfathers. And it's funny because as I've slowly been opening the door to sort of where my blood and where my physical body comes from the many bodies and blood that have come before me. Little bits and pieces have slowly been unraveling. And, you know, I don't necessarily have an answer at all quite yet. And I think that is part of the joy of the journey that I'm on in this current moment. And the slow unraveling of sort of reclaiming that like ancestry that maybe my parents and their parents before them have decided to sort of let go of. I think the closest ancestral connection that I have held in my heart is seeing my grandfather after my grandmother passed away go into this sort of like crazed fit of like needing to know everything about our family. And he drudged up a lot of information, which was kind of cool, before he passed. And those little tiny tidbits have just been slowly eye-opening to where maybe my connection to the earth is rooted. And I don't necessarily see it so apparently in the art that I create. But it's ultimately this feeling of and knowing of just the support that I feel like I have behind me, whether or not I have any physical or solid answers to where it's coming from or who they are. Yeah, so it's been a fun puzzle journey, and I feel like it'll be a continuous one throughout my whole life. And I've always been one to be down for a challenge, so I feel like it's fitting.
I love Jordyn's art so much because it feels very cosmic, but also feels extremely tribal to me. Could you talk a little bit maybe about your style and where you think that comes from?
Mm. Yeah, I feel like I've put a title, if I am going to, on my art being more of like an ancient future energy. Um, I've always been extremely drawn to stark contrast. So the black and white or just like the strong lines have always been really apparent and drawing for me. Um, and the way that I produce my art comes when, as all art comes, it's usually like an inspiration of some sort, and then it just comes through. Some people definitely have like a very distinct plan that they follow to get to A to B. But in my experience, my art comes from sort of like a feeling of inspiration, not even necessarily a vision of inspiration. Um, and once that feeling is emerged fully to inspire action, the drawing or the painting or the crafting, whatever it may be, ends up sort of unfolding in a way that I could have never even imagined or thought of. Um, and it's quite fun in that way to know that, as well as Boom, I'm also an intuitive handbook artist, and within the energy of the three that we've been talking about, a lot of the times what comes through for someone to have put on their bodies for the rest of their lives is, it's always like you can tell a difference almost in just the energy of the symbol or the creation or the flow of where it is on the body that's coming through, that it just feels like it was always there. And I feel like a lot of my art kind of, when I look at it, I feel like I'm just like, huh, yeah, like you were meant to exist in this time period. So yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but
You got exactly where you needed to go. I love what you share. Like, your art is exactly where it needs to be, and it's kind of like it's always been there. So it's kind of like a hand poke tattoo is actually taking, as many tattooers do, it's like taking the water and a towel, putting the water on the towel, wiping the skin to like reveal the tattoo. But it's kind of like you're revealing the skin, what's always been under the skin, in a sense, if that makes sense. And I love that visual of like, I'm actually not tattooing, I'm actually showing you like a second layer of your skin that's always been there. So thank you for that reflection.
I have a comment on this because
Yeah, go for it.
related to the concept of the bridging of the new and the modern, I think you mentioned, and also about the ancestry part too. There is this aspect of art which I find is really deeply connected to timelessness. And the timelessness, it's like it never had an origination, it never has an end. It just, everything always existed and it can't ever cease to exist. So there is like that feeling of the work that we're doing, we say to ourselves, oh, there's nothing new in the whole world. It's all been done before. And in some ways, that's absolutely true, because even if it appears to be done in the future, it's still happening all at once and has already and will always be. And as we tune into that timelessness, we see that like one of the more, I guess, controversial thoughts that I have often is that I do not personally resonate with this idea of like the strong idea of like lineage and ancestral from my, I know that my DNA carries with it the codes of these traditions, but I also feel that part of our future in humanity is focusing on that we have all been in every single person at the same time. So by us over identifying with where we're coming from is not necessarily serving to unite us as much as it is to divide us in some cases. And of course, you can narrate it any way you want, but I find myself carrying forward the lineage of whatever I want to come through me, and I choose that. And so I can choose my lineage to be Egyptian. I can choose my lineage to be Chinese. I can choose it to be, you know, Mexican, Aztec, whatever I want it to be, and not related in some cases to my genetics. And I think that we do that with our artwork, and a lot of people experience a lot of critique from that. But the synthesis and this channeling that's happening, it can come through anyone. Like it doesn't have to be because you have a connection in this body, and there's so much attachment to the body. But I just think like if it's all been done before, it's just whoever decides to grab that piece and do it, it's you might as well just do it. So it's like I wish that we could have more freedom and encouragement from society to just grab whatever resonates with us, because that is our joy and excitement. And to self-censor, to not be able to go towards what you love because it's not like an ownership of yours, like this idea of ownership, I think needs to die personally.
Get us, Omair, get us together. Yeah, I mean, this is a very, very hot topic. I'm just gonna put that there because I can definitely see both sides of the coin. And I'm not here to say one side is correct or incorrect, because the way that I interpret this within my own experience is, and this actually came through like right before this today's summit through an Akashic Records reading that I did before. But it's like the idea that we're always in a sense merged with something. We're merged with the food that we just ate, and the plants and the plant spirits that we just consumed, the roots under us, the people that live above us, our ancestral DNA, what has happened in the past, what has happened in the future. Like we're always, in a sense, the mediator of all of these various energies, all of the codes within the water, and the past versions of this water across time, the crystals and how crystals hold memory as well. And it's like there are always so many influences that we are kind of influenced by, in a sense. So how do we say that, you know, this crystal is the reason that I can do this, or this thing is the reason that I can do this, or my ancestry is the reason that I can do this? Yeah, I'm not really sure. I think for myself, I have a lot of pride in being Costa Rican, because mostly not because of the Costa Rican culture or the way that it presents in my family, but more the Costa Rican land, the land of Costa Rica. And I went there and experienced it myself. But I'm curious for you, Boom, how you are feeling with this topic, because your hand poke tattooing, you know, a lot of it comes from a ancestral place of the Philippines. So how do you balance, you know, doing something the new way and the old way, preserving the system you were taught from, and also doing something totally new?
This is a juicy topic. I feel like there's so many layers when it comes to this. And at least for me, I feel like to remember ancestry and to come back to lineage is a privilege. I think of a lot of like I have a close friend who she's Black, and we would talk about lineage. And she says that she doesn't have the privilege of accessing her ancestry due to the loss of those roots and because of due to slavery. And so she doesn't have access to her ancestry. So it's this fine line where it's like, even in the question that was posed by Britt, it's like, how do we acknowledge these practices that come from different ancestry, especially when it's woven with oppression and violence and theft? And even thinking about, I'm Filipino American, and there's a Filipino ancestral hand poke practice that comes from the Philippines. And to me, I find this fine balance of like questioning as a Filipino American, how am I appropriating my own culture? And I feel like it comes back to honoring lineage and honoring the ancestry, honoring the history. And so if you can, whether what you're tuning into comes from your lineage or not, I feel like as long as there is reverence, as long as there is honoring where things have come from, why they've become what they are, knowing the roots and knowing and like honoring why you're choosing to channel this type of art or whatever symbol it may be, I feel like supports the process of bringing it back to life. And I feel like history is important. Lineage to me is important. I come from a family of farmers. My grandfather was the last of he was the eldest of his siblings, the last of his family to be rural farmers, and they grew up in poverty. And he knew that if he pursued education, he can transform the trajectory of my family's destiny, which he did. And if he didn't do that, I wouldn't be here speaking upon him and be here with the tools that I have and all the privilege that I carry. And so I feel like I'm on this quest of remembrance. And when he let go of this like ancestral gift of connecting to the land in the way that him and his ancestors did, I feel like so much was lost in translation, where the more successful my family became within the lens of society, they lost this deep ancestral connection to the land. And so to me, it's this remembrance. To me, it's like this reclamation of who who were the people that came before me, what were the processes they held, like what were their intentions and prayers, and how can I weave it into what I stand for? And I feel like this is a juicy topic because like I believe if any traditional Filipino tattooing is called batok, where you're like it's like a certain way and practice and comes with lineage. And I feel like if there are folks outside of this lineage that honor and love the practice, the symbolism, and can study the history and know where it comes from, why they're interested and like pour their hearts into it, who am I to say they can't do that, you know? As long as they honor where it came from and like honor their why. And I feel like as long as we can honor our whys with intention and love, then we can co-create this experience and like carry on those histories that otherwise would be lost if we don't remember them.
I
Do you
love
mind if
that.
I add something to this?
Yeah, go for it.
Thank you for sharing that, Boom. And Omair, I feel like this is like the one of the diamond moments where there's many sides of the same jewel. And the word and the energy that keeps coming up for me when I'm listening to these stories is relationship. It's like having a relationship with the thing that you are feeling called or drawn to be doing. And I do really deeply feel that the more that we learn about something, the deeper capacity we have to love it. And so I feel it doesn't necessarily matter, like it does matter, and it's like a yes and moment where that it's about conjuring a specific relationship that feels authentic and integral to the practice, the lineage, the where it came from, because there's obviously deeply rooted codes that need to be honored and respected within that. And then also honoring the relationship that you're building with it. And I think that if we can sort of allow ourselves to slow down and build like a consistent and steady, healthy relationship with these things, it can really ultimately bring a lot more like juice and girth into the practices that we're wanting to like move forward and sort of add to in life.
I love that so much. Just to recap what Boom was sharing, it's kind of like the acknowledging of lineage and like the triumphs and the tribulations that happen within the line. And it's more about honoring what kind of came before us and the energy that has been poured into the ancestral line in order to move it forward, in order to evolve. It's kind of like the avatar. Every few years a new avatar comes through, but it's like they are picking up where the last person left off. And I love what you bring in, Jordyn, that yes, it is about the specific individual's relationship with the lineage, and like what an integrous relationship looks like, and how do we tend to that, how do we do that respectfully. And I think we all have our own definitions. We're all adults, we're all, can go to the beat of our own drum. I mean, yeah, I think for myself, I also think about like my own name as Horus, and how many times people see that name as like an Egyptian god or whatever. But for me, it came through a spiritual initiation, and it wasn't related to any Egyptian anything. But as I have sat with the name and embodied the name more and more over the years, I feel like more kind of Egyptian traditions want to come to me to be looked at. So it's kind of like sometimes we don't really know the first piece of the puzzle, but as we tend to our relationship with this thing that may or may not be outside of our lineage, it starts to teach us, it starts to communicate to us. And yeah, it's not really up to anyone to tell us whether that's right or wrong. It's our own experience and our own relationship. But thank you for bringing up this topic, because I feel like it very much relates to me and my own experience as well. I'll just leave some space here in case there is anything else that wants to be shared with, regarding this topic before we move on. Beautiful. Awesome. I would love to go to Omair and start to talk about maybe like your music and your art, and even maybe your experience with being an acupuncturist of the modality of esoteric acupuncture, and just the various modalities that you work with. How have you felt being an initiator of other people and initiating other people through your various mediums? I'm curious if there is anything there that you'd like to share, whether a good or bad experience. You enjoy it, you don't enjoy it, if anything comes to mind.
Thank you so much. So what comes up for me in regards to this question is emphasizing again that I almost never feel at a state of arrival in figuring out what I'm doing. And it could just be because, I'm 33 and I feel like I'm still a baby in many ways. But the niche which I've chosen, and I think many artists do choose, once I switched, even more recently in January, I had an initiation with my best friend Jules, where we made a ritual that ceremonially marked the transition from me making my primary purpose in life to be an acupuncturist or a healer to be an artist. And having those ceremonial moments to commemorate these changes, it grounds them down, the energies, and helps to solidify those changes in your life. And a lot of the work that I know Boom and Jordyn are doing as well is commemorating those things through talismans. So when I do my work in the esoteric acupuncture and in the music, I find it's interesting how interrelated it is when it comes to this work of the subconscious and this archetypal, symbolic kind of sea that we're marinating in when we do this work. It feels to me like I have to constantly be educating and refining myself and others to understand what I'm doing. And by that expression, using my voice, my throat chakra, and my sacrum, the connection there is like we have this life force energy, and I work with the chakra, whether I'm doing conducting, light work when I do music, or whether I'm conducting light work when I do my sacred geometry patterns in the acupuncture. It's mainly functioning on the same premise of this sound and harmonics and light. And as you paint that picture with that intention and using your intuition and you channel, you're able to anchor in those codes, whatever needs to come through at that moment. And it's like there's like an unexpected part about it. You don't know what's going to come through. And I don't even know how to often characterize it because of the mystery of it. So, I'm right now in the midst of refining what it is that I'm doing and how to speak to others about it, and being able to utilize that new language and be confident in the leadership of that I'm going to be using language that no one's ever used. And that excites me greatly because of my personal personality mechanics. I'm very excited by that, but it's also it takes a lot of energy to speak something new that's not typically heard, say it with confidence, and not censor yourself or try to fit into the mold of what would be easier to understand. It's like you have to walk the middle way, like that bridge between what is the layman's term and then what is like this more sophisticated thing that you're trying to communicate, and just kind of trust that whatever's going to come through you is what was meant to come through, and it's never going to be the same again. And it's just like the beauty of and the delicacy of that present moment, the transience of it, and embracing in every moment that I really don't know. Like the ultimate is uncertainty, of it. So that's kind of how I'm moving through those things.
Yeah, totally. Many times it's so hard to communicate what we do and even like quote unquote advertise. And we are folks that are bridge workers, that initiate others, that share our relationship with the divine with others. I kind of see this as like we have this relationship with the divine, and then when someone's in space with us or in a reading, we're kind of like copying and pasting our relationship with the divine to the other person. And the more that they sit with us, or maybe that's just a very deep initiation with them, but it starts to build some type of like muscle memory, so that when they then go home, they can still kind of tap into the divine through the muscle memory that they experience through like our ceremony. So in a way, we're kind of that middleman in a sense of helping people reach the divine through our own specific relationship with the divine, or with the plant spirits, or whatever medium that we're using. So yeah, it's super hard to navigate like when our biggest wealth is immaterial, when our biggest gift to the world is immaterial and hard to explain. And it's like, how do we do that? Like, and especially like the world is so results based. Like, okay, on my website, do I put like, I did these many readings and this percentile was like really great and really correct. This is how many mistakes I made as a tattoo artist. These are how many tattoos I've done. Like, how do we navigate the world of black and white in a sense? And how do we help educate people that this work is valuable? So I would love to just open that question to everyone, if there's anything that comes to mind that you want to share with that.
My first brief thought with that is providing a space that gives people permission to experience and dive in to whatever capacity that they have, and for them to feel safe enough to just explore and exist within that realm. And whatever comes from there is such a gift.
Yeah, because it's kind of like at times we think that we need to have our books filled, that we have to make all the money because we're doing this work, and sometimes we kind of think about ourselves because we're the ones kind of tending to our relationship with the divine, honing our craft, honing our gifts. So because we're doing that, you're like, oh, well, I should have my needs met because I'm doing this amazing thing for the community. And then a lot of times it totally is not that. It isn't that. And how do you share and create that safe space that I love that you are sharing, Jordyn, of like a space that feels soft, a space that feels curious for us to explore, and not thinking like, this many people have to come in, versus it being like, if someone comes in, cool. If they don't, whatever. And it's not up to me. It's not really me doing the work. A lot of times, the way that I communicate healing work is I open the door, the healing or the guide or the whatever comes through the door and they do it. But I'm the one that just opens the door. And I think that is also related to being a bridge worker. So a lot of times we're just opening the door. We're not really doing, not that we're not doing anything, like we are, but it's like we aren't using our own spiritual power, our own energy to heal the person, because then it's very ego-based. Anything anyone wants to mention about anything me or Jordyn shared before we move on?
I'll share a story that comes to mind that's a bit more recent. And I love, as she says, share opening the door of love. And I like to imagine like my offering as like a temple, a space, and I don't know who will come in through the door, who will be knocking on the door. And I'm just welcoming all that appears and comes through. And so I recently sat in a tattoo ceremony, and it was a stranger, someone who I had never met. And through our ceremony, I was getting a lot of images, whether it be mental, third eye images, as well as reflections within the cards of like cave. Like there were probably 3 cards that appeared that represented a cave. I felt it within my body, cave energy. I'm like, okay, like if this is what it's part of, this is the energy I need to translate. Okay. So I'm like, this is what wants to come through. And she was like, honestly, it was amazing and so open. And she was like, okay, like I love what's coming through. And oftentimes within this work, it's mystery work. It channels and flows through us. We have no idea what's coming through, what will create, what is being asked of us. And so it wasn't until after I had already tattooed the piece and co-created this piece with her that she messaged me after. And she was like, she's been training for a marathon. And so she was like, like I just wanted to reach out and say that I wasn't sure what the cave represented for me. Like I was just open. I was open to all that you shared, all the messages that came through. And so she had a goal in mind of 2 hours to like complete this marathon within 2 hours. And she was maybe halfway there, exhausted, like ready to give up. And she said, like, I'll just stop here. Like my body is aching. I'm done. And this was maybe 3 days after our ceremony. And so she remembered the cave, and within marathon running, which I'm not a marathon runner, I have no context to this, but she says that there is this concept of a pain cave. And it's this moment as you're running your marathon, you're entering like a physical, mental pain cave. And it's like pushing past these barriers to see through the other side. And she remembered, like, this is what my tattoo is of. This is what this energy is representing. And so she beat her goal of like finishing this marathon under 2 hours and then messages me and says, hey, like, I just wanted to reflect this back to you. And oftentimes, again, we have no idea what we're being asked to do. And I imagine Omair with you, with like whatever symbol you're putting within your sacred geometry within your light work within acupuncture or your music and Jordyn, as well as with you and your creative expressions through your paintings or the permaculture spaces you're building or your tattoo. That's like oftentimes these energies are just channeling through us. And I feel like maybe the energetics of money will reflect as we go and continue to hone our energy towards our vision. Again, how Omair said, like, our energy flows to what we put our energy towards. Our energy flows towards what we put our attention towards, rather. And so we just focus on our vision, focus on this creative energy that's being channeled to us. The reflection of the energy of money will appear, but also the reflection of this mystery shows up. And I feel like my client's reflection, I told her, like, thank you for sharing this with me because I feel like it reminds me of my why, this great mystery of all that we do. It's easy to get lost in the sauce, but I feel like these small interactions, these small synchronicities just make all of this mystery worth it. And it's beautiful what we get to co-create within this third space and what we get to channel through us, through our hands, through our energy, through our creative output.
Thank you. Yeah, there's such a big responsibility for making sure that our channel is clear and that we're coming from the right angle whenever we're sitting in ceremony with other people. So thank you, Bo. We are moving towards the end. I would love to ask anyone that is still here, if they have any questions, they can start to put them into the chat and start to think about them. But until then, I'll just ask one question to each of you. Totally kind of off, three different kind of off-topic things, but I'd love to share this question with Jordyn. What is the best way that you think we can relate to the land?
It's funny. Well, it's not funny. It's very synchronistic. You're very good at what you do, Horus. I was actually in Sedona this past week and sitting at one of the energy vortexes, just meditating and sort of feeling into what it is that the earth and our bodies and anything that is natural is wanting from us as the tenders to the space. And all she really said was listen. She's like, I just want to be heard. And I think that is, like you have mentioned previously, is the door that we can step through. And also pick up trash.
I love it. Yeah, it's like such a. Yesterday we went through Tales of Earth, and it's just the same thing. Girl, open your ears. Just listen. Tend to the relationship. Listen to the plants, and we'll go from there. It's a conversation. So thank you, Jordyn. My next question is gonna go to Omair. What is sacred geometry? Where does it come from? How does that relate to your work with sound and frequency? That's a very loaded question, but anything you want to share there that comes to mind?
Yes, and actually, I love this question because I have a fairly concise answer to it, which is the fabric of this reality is created based on sacred geometries. And within those geometries are also frequencies of sound, harmonics of light. So we may call them, it's the synesthesia of what creates the simulation. And through that, the sound, the light, the material, the force within the matter is that connection to the Tao, the source of all that is, and God, the infinite invisible. So when we do these patterns or these frequencies through whatever medium, and literally any medium is art in that way, because we are all tapping, like you could use anything as a medium for art, literally anything. And because they all go to the same source, which is frequency, light, that creation, that seed of creation. So when we do this work, it, it's just, as Jordyn said, the facets of the diamond. It, whatever you choose, that is the energy that feels most aesthetically pleasing to you. That's your expression. That's your unique flavor of combination of energies of those, that magnificence. That those things that you're most attracted to are usually in resonance with what your energy is. So when we do work with music or with esoteric acupuncture to reground people to their inherent essence, or we call their puzzle piece of life, or their ankh, their frequency, their ketone, that is their unique frequency. A lot of it is just reconnecting ourselves with the energy of the earth and the cosmos. And we do that through our central pillar, in opening our crown, opening all of our energy centers. And they're located not just in our center, but like they create every part of our body. So wherever energy crisscrosses, there becomes a vortex. And so you can imagine we're just full of vortexes, and then we're in the universe full of vortexes in the universal energy field. So all we're doing is connecting our ability to commune with that energy more easily, smoothing the flow of it. And that's what we're all doing with art.
Wow. My brain just went so many places. Thank you. Art comes from the same source. It comes from universal consciousness, comes from God, whatever you want to call it. And your art style is what this frequency kind of is how this frequency expresses through you. So it's like, how do I want to channel God? It comes into you, but the way that you express it is what your art style is. And you are a collaboration of the lineages you resonate with, the food that you just ate, the land that you're on, which is such a big thing because who I am is so different depending on where I am in the world. But yeah, it's all a collaboration. So thank you, Omair. Such a beautiful answer. Boom. I am actually going to ask you a question that your sister is asking. What are you currently in love with right now?
You all. A lot of things. I think something that's been really alive for me is the intersection of the digital and the ancestral. I recently sat in a course where it was called Scripting as Scrying. So it's learning to build web-based divination experiences using JavaScript. And so, as I mentioned, I come from a background in tech, so I felt like I was being asked, do I let it go or do I keep this? And so I feel like there's this beautiful intersection here that is being asked of me to play with, to bridge these worlds, especially when we're seeing technology being taken or being commodified, or technology being used as a tool of surveillance. And so it's like intentionality is so programmed. And it makes me think of the book Britt had mentioned. It was imagination, and how like the reality we live in is created by those in power. It's like their imagination. So how can I use my imagination to recreate digital spaces that are more intentional, that are more like, that carry the weight of ancestral technologies into this digital plane? And so I'm still figuring what this will look like. But I feel like this is what I'm really in love with right now, this question that feels very alive and juicy.
Very Atlantean of you. Yeah, I love seeing Boom spend very long nights talking to his machine and beep boop bopping all night. And there's like this like machine learning program that's like, we need 100 photos of your face in order to teach this machine that you are a human, or to teach this machine that this is a dog, and like all these really cool things. I don't think it's AI, but it's more like machine learning and stuff, which is really, really interesting. Thanks for sharing, Boom. I'd love to ask that same question to Omair and Jordyn. Maybe we'll go to Jordyn first. What are you in love with right now?
I'm in love with my space. The quiet stillness of the rain today, and the space that I have been conjuring for myself. It takes a lot for me to come back to my shell, and the past few days have been extremely pleasant to be doing that. So
Thank you, Jordyn. And lastly, Omair, what are you in love with right now?
Yeah, I have to second Boom in saying that I'm in love with all of you. I'm so in love with you guys. I'm also really in love with myself at this moment. I've been in like a dark hole the past couple weeks, and I just feel such a renewed sense of vigor from this. I didn't have as much energy to be able to promote this as much as I may have felt like judging myself into it. But if it wasn't for anyone else, it was definitely for me. And I really needed this so much. And I felt like my spirit was rejuvenated in such a healing way that I could not have manifest this. Like, I mean, I did manifest this, but like, no, I'm joking. But I mean, it's wonderful. I can't believe how amazing it is. And the way that you role modeled this, Horus, it taught me so much. And I have, even with the most professional of conferences, I have not seen the level of organization and intentionality which you have cultivated. And I'm so incredibly grateful for it. And I think that this will open many doors for you because you're demonstrating what the role model that I need to see, which is doing the thing you want to do regardless of results.
Oh, I was like,
I'm
was
still
it
stuck
me?
in that reward punishment.
Oh,
Oh, did I
you
cut out?
froze for a second.
Oopsie.
But we got it.
Okay,
Or
yeah, well,
anything you want to share again?
I mean, I'm just really impressed and I feel so grateful for this. So thank you again. And yeah, thanks for role modeling. I felt immensely inspired by your activity here. And I would love to see what the future will bring us.
Yay, thank you guys so much. You guys are all amazing, and thank you for answering my next question many times. Within the past 3 days, I ask a question and the person answers the question and they also answer the next question, and I'm like, obviously all these hosts are psychic. So thank you, Omair, for that reflection. I feel like I am feeling a frequency and then fine tuning it in a very, very Virgo, clean, clear way. So thank you for receiving the frequency that I'm trying to share and the way that I'm world building this virtual space. I'd love to share the same question with Boom and Jordyn, starting with Boom. What was the summit process like for you? When I invited you, did something come up for you? Less about, me and giving me my flowers, like thank you, but more about like your behind the scenes experience.
I feel like I can't not talk about you, you know? It's an honor to witness you create this. And I was telling Horace this last night, and I was like, you make this all seem so easy. And I know it's not because I'm right with you, but like if roles were reversed, this would this would be very hard for me. And so like I feel like I'm just grateful. I'm grateful to have the opportunity to sit with two beautiful people that I got to cross paths with in San Diego as artists, as friends, and like we met in such a beautiful space that a mutual friend was co-creating, and we were all in a meadow playing music and painting and crafting and pulling cards. It's like, and to have this opportunity to just share about our creative practices, our dreams, our visions, um, what we believe in terms of who we are and what we stand for as BridgeWorkers. It's just been an honor. And I don't know, I feel like I've moved past a lot of layers of self-doubt to really be here and show up as my most embodied self. And so I'm proud of myself. I honor myself for showing up. I honor you all for showing up and like co-creating this third space with me. And it's just been an honor and a pleasure. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm also so in love with everything that has conspired between the planning process and today, and I'm sure the future timelines that are woven from here on out. It's so exciting, and it feels like it's spirit took the wheel, but it was Horus who took the wheel and just sort of like created the mastermind behind what's really needed right now. You know, this sense of spiritual leadership in whatever way we want to look at that. But just like being empowered by our peers, you know, and like really feeling that support and knowing that even if the financial isn't there, even if the other stuff isn't there, like things aren't going the way planned, it's like it's all in the bigger picture and in the process. And this reminder that this process that Horus has created and what we have all co-created is just, it's the most inspiring thing that's really happened in a while in terms of like the future, you know, like it's like, yes, thank you, more to come, please. And may this ripple out in ways that are unknown and unseen now, but let them grow seeds of greatness into the future before we know it.
Thank you so much, guys. You guys are amazing, and you all are future aliens and like future workers and awesome. And I'm just so grateful that on a higher plane, I was like gathering everyone in this astral living room, and I'm like, okay, guys, here's the plan. Just trust me. And then all these other energies, including all of you all, like, is that really gonna work? Like, what is this? I'm like, just trust me. And they're like, I don't know if the human version is gonna be okay with this. And it's like, oh, it's okay, it's okay. So then like just gathering everyone together is so funny, because it's like I feel the frequency. This is my baby that I've like kind of been feeling for about a year, and then it kind of is transforming over the months and stuff, and then it's dropping in this way. And I'm like, oh, this is what it wants to become. I'm like, I don't know what's gonna happen when I become the Jimmy Fallon of spirituality, but we shall see. And to that, thank you all for joining. So many quotes were dropped today, so let's just take a moment to just like close our eyes, to really allow everything that was shared today to sink in. Beginning to deepen the breath. And we'll make the intention here to pour anything that didn't resonate with us back into the river of life. And giving gratitude for whatever you're leaving with today. In your own way, in own time, just gently coming back into the space, or you can stay here for a few more moments. But some integration tips for today that I would recommend are just maybe journaling, maybe making a video diary, recording yourself, drawing, moving your body. Overall, just reflecting what was shared today, and if anything came up for you, just looking at that and seeing what that means for you. But I love you all so much. Thank you so much for joining. I'm going to have all of our guests stay on for a few more moments. But thank you to everyone that tuned in. We shall see you next time, whatever that means for us. Next lifetime, next summit, who knows? But love you guys.